And you can't kill yourself. You told me you can't. You told me you don't have the guts to do it. So you're not doing that. We all know you're not doing that. And I was like, no. And I was like, why is he talking to me like this? This is terrible, you know? I'm so depressed. And he goes, well, have you ever thought about this? He's like, maybe. Maybe there is no doctor. Maybe this is your life. Or maybe Tommy's love will heal you. What if Tommy's love will heal you? Why don't you try that? You haven't tried that before. Why don't you let it in? And maybe it will heal you. And it just clicked. I Rolodexed to the guy that told me I had no benevolence. I Rolodexed to the girl who people were just like, geez, like I was so just, this message was coming to me like, let love in, let it in. Like your parents were trying to give it to you. Your brother tried to give it to you. You ran from it. This beautiful person who's accepted everything, you're attracted to him. He loves you. He thinks you're the strongest girl in the world. He told me that a million times, is trying to love you. And you're like, oh, we're going to break up. We're going to break up. We're going to break up. And he would say, like, stop saying that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, don't manifest that. And I was like, oh, he doesn't know. He thinks he's this strong, but he cannot handle this. And so Joe clicked. It clicked. It clicked. And I decided at that point when he said that to me, that every hug that I was ever going to get from Tommy was going to be like just absorb. I was going to take it in and be like,
just mainline the love.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't going to reject it. And I did it like it was a practice. I did it like a coach told me, you have to take this supplement. It's disgusting. It tastes bad, but you have to do it. It's good for you. And I said, okay, this is a practice now.
That was Maryann Lekas, and this is the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. Hey, everyone, I'm Jess, your host, and this is episode 83 of the YTP, as well as part 2 of our conversation with Ms. Maryann Lekas. Last week, we left Maryann in Greece after having just made a character-defining decision, fighting a gnarly staph infection just weeks out from the Olympic Games. Her body completely torn down from her extreme dieting and training left her one hope for Olympic glory, and that was to take performance-enhancing drugs. In a moment of divine clarity, she realized that it was in fact her ego and not her heart that was pushing her to the start line. So thankfully, oh my goodness, we are so thankful that she chose to walk away and return home to the States. This leads us to where we begin today's conversation. Back in La Jolla, California, Maryann begins her new life. And that new life is in air quotes because, as many of us know, you can move across the world or the country, but you cannot move away from yourself, and especially not your unhealthy tendencies. BJ and I know this fact intimately as we ran into it quite quickly on our Ride the High Vibe tour last year. If you don't know about our tour, go back and listen to episode 1 of this podcast. In short, after ridding ourselves of most of our material possessions, selling our dream home, and moving our entire life into our Honda Fit in prep for life on the road, it became evident almost immediately that the one thing we didn't get rid of was ourselves. More specifically, our mental stowaways, our shadow selves, our baggage, our imbalances. In fact, it's been my experience that change shines a spotlight on these things and brings them out even more. If we are cued in and we have mindfulness tools of healing, which thankfully BJ and I do, we can step up to those imbalances and we can heal them. If we don't, if we continue to live within them, pushing through, using drugs, alcohol, exercise, food, all just to endure our life, those imbalances and the underlying lessons that we are here to learn will continue to get stronger until we listen. And for most, that includes at least one real good rock bottom hit. For Maryann, it was more than one. And each time the darkness grew while the light fought so hard to come out. Soon after returning home, her obsession for fitness morphed into what she calls Operation Atrophy. She was on a mission to rid herself of her Olympic bulk, so again, extreme dieting came in as a means to control her body, and while she was still swimming and running, her distaste for the bike was replaced with Bikram Yoga. Spending more and more time in the studio, taking multiple classes a day, led to teaching and immersing herself in what Maryann calls the advanced ego moves of the physical practice. Her lack of balance in life, body, mind, and spirit grew deeper and deeper until one day her world halted as she sustained a very rare injury that set her afloat on an 8-year journey to regain her health. During these years, she led a secret life. She planned her suicide. She tried to let others in. She shut them out. She found hope and lost it, and oftentimes considered her situation one of complete doom. She was a woman who didn't believe she was worthy of love from anyone, especially herself, despite all the signs that were coming into her life for her to open up and receive. For years, decades, she was aware of her lack of love for herself, and the divine moments that we saw in part 1 continued until finally something clicked. Maryann's ultimate lesson of learning to love herself is one that we can all learn from. We live in a society that is steeped in unworthiness, lack, ego, comparison, and non-compassion. There are many moments in this conversation where the hair stands up on the back of my neck. To think of the daily doom this beautiful soul endured is hard to digest, but there is something very important to glean from Maryann's life, and that is, if we do not show up to the themes that are reoccurring in our life, they will continue to take us down a road of imbalance until we are exhausted and broken. For some, it will take a similar level of doom, but my hope is that if you are in the doom, this podcast will assist you in waking up and allow you to embrace the vulnerability that it takes to heal. We are all right by your side. The YT community is one of strength, love, and support. We are a tribe of badasses who understand that vulnerability is the gateway to true power. And the more we can soften into it, the better the world will be for it. There is no effort on this path that is a waste. There is no effort on the path to realizing our true selves that is a waste. And through this realization, we are able to step into our most elite performances as athletes and humans. You guys are amazing. Maryann and Tommy rock. We are so fired up to be the stewards of such a groundbreaking movement in sport and life, and we are in deep thanks of your support. We are Yogi Triathlete Holistic Performance, triathlon and run training, plant-based nutrition education and coaching, yoga, mindfulness, and oh, hell yeah, meditation. Our team of athletes is growing. We still have spots available. So if you are thinking about joining us, shoot over an email and let's get the conversation started. If you are digging this show, we encourage you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, because every person that leaves a review between now and the end of the year will be entered into our December giveaway, which happens to be a 2XU transition bag engineered for superior durability. Beej is rocking one of these bags as of late, and he is loving the generous pockets and the waterproof bottom pouch for his nasty post-race shoes and wetsuit. Maryann gives us many reasons to leave a review this month, so step into your support of the show. And without further ado, let's get on to the doom so that we may move into the light with one of the toughest humans on this planet, Maryann Lekas.
I come back to La Jolla. And my friends they totally understood. They loved it. They didn't care. But I still swam. I still ran, but I had no bikes and I didn't want a bike. So I was swimming and running and teaching yoga at Bikram in La Jolla. First, I started working the desk there and Bikram Yoga in La Jolla. And at one point, there was just this influx, or not influx. There's a couple of teachers that weren't great. They had stuff going on in their life. And they didn't show up for a 6 a.m. class, and I was working the desk. And the owner of the Bikram Yoga Studio, I wasn't Bikram trained, but I had done so much Bikram. She goes, "Oh my God, my 6 a.m. teacher just canceled. You need to teach it." And so I was like, okay. I'm not a shy person. And I was like, I'll teach it. Don't worry. And the 6 a.m.ers are everybody I knew. I had been working there, signing them in. They knew me. So I was like, oh, cool. Let's just do it. So I taught, and they loved it. And then I just started teaching. I taught yoga for her for almost 4 years, Bikram Yoga, without going to Bikram training. And trust me, in the Bikram world, that was not well accepted. But she was like, I don't care. You're great. You know the dialogue. People love your teaching. I have a kines background. I was a trainer, so I knew how to work with people's bodies and express how to do physical movement. Mm-hmm. So that lasted for a long time. But what happened was psychologically, as I came back, and I was huge. I was physically huge. I had no breasts. I had no mammary glands. I was Michael Phelps, but a female. I mean, I had swimmer shoulders. I had a male swimmer chest. I looked ripped. And literally the only guys that would talk to me were dudes that were like, how much protein do you take in? You know, like muscle heads. That's who loved me. And I noticed it and I was like, oh God, how do I reintegrate into this society and be tiny and cute and feminine and even get a boyfriend? And I was
especially in those Bikram classes where they're wearing the teeny itty bitty little shorts. It really is.
Yeah.
Like,
and in La Jolla, like, you know, I was like 30 something, maybe I was 30 at this point or 28. And there's like 50-year-old women that are rocking and looking ripped and lean and gorgeous. And I was like, oh my God. And so I realized Bikram Yoga makes you lean and sleek. And I was doing either teaching the 6 a.m. class, going on a run and a swim, coming back and doing the 4:30 and 6:30, doing those classes. So I was in that hot room all day. Then I met some girls and I started doing advanced Bikram Yoga. We'd go on lockdown when the studio didn't have classes in the middle of the day, and we'd do the advanced series. And I started learning all the cool postures, all the contortion postures. But mind you, I was still running and I was still swimming and doing Bikram. And so how did I make money? I had a few clients, La Jolla clients, and I was just really living probably off of like $70 a day or 80 maybe, you know, nothing even major. And doing tons of yoga and hanging out with my other yoga girlfriends that were teaching me super cool ego moves, all the hand poses, because those are the cool ones. And what we would do before a class, because a Bikram class, you know, is the same. So you don't get to do those advanced postures in class. So I would do them before class because I needed to get my advanced postures in or it wasn't a complete workout. And so one day I had gone on this like 12-mile run. It was funny because it was a 6-mile run with someone else and a 6-mile, like a friend called me, was like, hey, you want to run? And I was like, yeah. And these were both SEALs actually. And those were all my training partners, were Navy SEALs in Coronado. And they're like, hey, you want to run? And I was like, yeah. And then the next one called me not knowing I had ran with the other one. He's like, you want to run? And I was like, yeah, I'm actually down here in Coronado. I'll run. And so I did like a 12-mile run that day. And then I had to teach like the 4:30 class. And I was like, oh shit, I got to get back to La Jolla. I shimmy back to La Jolla. I'm turning on the humidifiers. The doors aren't open yet for people to come in. And I was like, oh, let me just do some advanced postures before the class comes in because I'm going to teach and I'm not going to get my workout in or my advanced postures.
Because 12-mile run with 2 Navy SEALs is
clearly... And probably no food.
Clearly not enough.
Yeah, and probably hadn't eaten. Maybe had some orange juice that day. So just because I knew I was going to be in the hot room and eating a full meal and being
And
in the
you're
hot
also
room.
on Operation Lean Out.
Yeah, Operation Lean Out Atrophy. We called it Operation Atrophy. So basically, I go into, and I don't know if the podcasters know full dancer or if you want me to explain it, but you stand on one foot, you kind of, it's almost like looking like you're going to do a quad stretch. You grab your ankle, but you pull your leg up. You see ice skaters doing it. You see gymnasts doing it. You pull your leg up. You grab your foot and you pull the arch of your foot, the bottom of your foot to touch your head. So it's called full dancer. And in that pose at, 4 p.m., class started at 4:30, I felt this hot, like 115 degree zing through my back. And it was like, zing! And I was like, oh shit, I just tore a muscle in my back. I'm not going to, literally the first thoughts were, how am I going to run? How am I going to swim? How am I going to do yoga? I'm going to get fat. Oh my God, I'm going to get fat. I'm going to feel gross. I'm going to be moody. This is all I cared about was the dopamine, how to get my endorphin buzz every day. And I was so fearful of an injury. And now I'm like, shit, I probably tore a muscle. Oh, nothing. I felt, that was it. It lasted for 10 seconds and that was it. And I was like, what? I thought I was going to be floored. And I taught class and I was fine. I told nobody because my friends would be like, oh, Jesus, Lekas, like, are you kidding me? So I told nobody. I was like, no one needs to know. It's not an injury, so go about my day. I go have dinner, my normal dinner, and the next morning, every morning I go to the bathroom like clockwork. Like, I eliminate my stool like clockwork. It was always 6 a.m. I eliminated, no problem. Like, if you were my roommate, you were not in the bathroom at 6 a.m. It was mine. And day one after the injury, I don't go to the bathroom, and I'm like, that's weird. And I had like dinner at Rimel's, I remember. I was like, maybe I had some bad raw fish. Like, maybe it's a parasite, whatever. I'll probably go to the bathroom later, but this is inconvenient. I was like, because I always go, and then you feel light for the rest of the day. Day 2, I don't go to the bathroom, and I'm like really weirded out. And my roommate's weirded out because I was,
The 6 a.m. slot was open.
Yeah. And everybody coveted my bowels. Even when I was a triathlete, they were like, what? Like, that is not fair. Day 3, I don't go to the bathroom. So it's 3 days of like huge salads at night. I mean, I'm talking like tabbouleh at Marketplace Grill over there, and like Rimel's big salads with sushi in them. Like, I didn't poop for 3 days. And so day 3, I'm in yoga, and I'm doing the locust pose, and I let out some gas. And I was like, oh, if the locust pose can help me poop or let out gas, or shimmied on my colon, maybe I just need to compress my colon. Something's going on. Why can't I poop? So I was like, this is really weird. So I was like, how do I do locust pose? So I went home and I did locust pose, and I was hoping poop would get to my rectum. Sorry. This is the point where if the viewers cannot handle the talk of stool,
That's okay.
they should probably, turn it off now.
Because from here on out, it's all about poo.
Yeah, everybody poops. There's like a book written called Everybody Poops. I think it's for
Maybe we'll
little
link
kids.
to that in the show notes.
So I decide that, well, on top of it, I should also say my roommate worked at an old folks home in PB, and a senior citizen home, I should say. And she's like, oh, we give old people enemas when they can't poop. I'll give you an enema. And she's like super cute, like looks like Bo Derek. She's like, lay down, fetal position, and I'll give you an enema. And she gives me an enema, and the water doesn't come out. Nothing comes out. And I was like, where did it go? And she's like, well, maybe you're dehydrated from Bikram. Maybe your body just absorbed it. And I was in so much pain. I was in tons of abdominal pain. I hadn't pooped for 3 days. And then the yoga studio teacher was like, oh, you have colon cancer. You have colon cancer. Because she had colon cancer.
Oh, right.
She couldn't poop. And they found like a softball size tumor in her rectum. And she's like, you need to get scoped. So I was like, okay, I go get scoped. And they're like, your colon's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with you. You're crazy. Go home and eat more fiber. And I was like, eat more fiber. I was like, I've had there's a lot of Rimal salads in here. And so I was in so much pain. I was like, I need to figure out how to poop. And I remembered that locust pose had felt like it had moved some stool. And for your viewers to understand what locust, or listeners to understand what locust pose is, you lay on your tummy and your elbows are underneath you like a volleyball player. And your elbows are compressing into your abdomen, and those nodules of your elbows are kind of pressing into your abdomen. I'm a pretty tiny person, so there's not a lot of fat to go through to get to press on your colon. And it kind of shimmied stuff. I could feel stuff wanting to go. And I was like, oh my God, I just need to simulate this. How do I simulate this? So I realized that a 10-pound dumbbell, like one that you lift weights with, is very similar to 2 elbows underneath your abdomen. I could recreate my elbows, but somehow put more pressure. Maybe I can get my stool to my rectum and get it to come out. And so I put a 10-pound dumbbell on the ground, and I kind of laid on it. I had all my clothes on at this point, and it was working. I was like getting my stool to go from point A to point B. So if any doctors are listening, there's ascending colon, transverse colon, and descending, and then rectum. And I was getting it somewhere around where my ascending to hepatic flexure is. It's on the right side by your rib cage. And that's where it was always stuck. And I was like, if I can just shimmy the dumbbell under my rib cage and start pushing the stool towards my transverse, and then continue to find where it is, and then manipulate the dumbbell to push it towards my rectum. So the way I can best describe it is, have you ever lost a string in your sweatshirt and you have to maneuver it through? That's what I had to do with my poop on a dumbbell on the bathroom floor. So I realized that the stool was getting there, but I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? Hopefully when it gets to my rectum, I stand up like a surfer and I can bear down and poop in the toilet. And it was there and I couldn't bear down and poop in the toilet. And I was like, this is crazy. So I took off all my clothes, everything, and I laid on that dumbbell. And a lot of people don't know this. Like, a lot of San Diego friends are probably listening to this, and they knew I did something in the bath. So let me pause here before I go into this. A lot of people in San Diego knew I had colon issues, but they didn't know what. And it was better for them to think that I had Crohn's or colitis and I was just having diarrhea bouts. I would rather have everybody think that that was the problem versus telling someone what I'm about to tell you. So I'm laying on the dumbbell and I had to get this poop out and I couldn't bear down on the toilet to get it out. And so I had to press it out to completion in a laying down. I'm laying down on my abdomen. So that poop is not dropping vertically into a toilet. It is coming out of your rectum and going all over the floor and all over your pelvic floor and underneath you and your pelvic girdle, high thigh, I should say. And it's all over the floor and all over me, but at least I got it out. And so now we're talking towels and toilet paper and bleach, and then I'm standing up and it's all over me. And I'm picking it up with toilet paper and throwing it in to the toilet, and bleach and spritz and you name it. I mean, I can tell you. And then that's what it was. That's what it became. My everyday became that exact thing. And it took 4, 6, 8 hours sometimes to do this. Mind you, I didn't give up. I was going and getting scoped and colonoscopies and finding doctors, and I was in the gastro world. I was going to every gastro that anybody recommended, and I had no medical benefits at the time because I had just come back and I had no job. I was paying out of pocket to go to these doctors. So I was getting client money and paying for a colonoscopy, which was like $5,000. So I would have to save up to get these colonoscopies. And so no one was finding anything. And then I was going to healers. I was doing cleanses. I was doing, oh my God, 4 months of someone telling me I had leaky gut syndrome. I was doing Western and Eastern medicine. There was never a week that went by where I wasn't seeing a doctor, but every day still doing that dumbbell.
And did anybody at this time know that you were doing the dumbbell?
My roommate.
But none of the doctors, none of the
healers?
Yeah,
yes.
Oh, they all knew that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was, I always disclosed that. And I always disclosed my injury to them. I said, look, I was pooping up until I did this. This is the only thing that was different. I did, and I would show them, I did full dancer, and this happened, and then that was it. I didn't poop again. And they would just scratch their heads and go, yeah, no. And they would try to give me a laxative, and the laxatives didn't work. No, if they did work, it was really gross. I mean, they would turn my poop into liquid, and then I would do the dumbbell, and I'm not kidding you. It would, let's just say I had a bathroom that was perfect for this. I would lay on the floor, and it would, when they gave me laxatives, it would squirt all over the walls, all over everything. Like if some kid came in there with a squirt gun of poo.
And it surprises me that nobody would think that it was like a neural thing, like a connectivity thing.
So,
like something wasn't connecting.
I never found anyone that would say that. Gastros kept just wanting to scope me to find Crohn's, colitis, polyps, diverticulitis, fibroid, cancer.
They're just practicing.
I was wishing.
Yeah,
I was wishing. I was like, God, after every colonoscopy, when they would come back and tell me I didn't have Crohn's or colitis or diverticulitis or a huge tumor, I was bummed. I would rather hear that I had a tumor. And so this went on forever. I led a secret life. I mean, this went on for several years. And I was telling Tommy, how do I describe who I was? I was I was in that bathroom at 6 a.m. doing the dumbbell. I would eliminate all over the floor, clean it up. And I had a system now. By now I knew what to do. And then I would just go, I'd get out of that bathroom and no one knew. I was getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. I dropped so much weight because food meant volume. So I started eating less. I was like, okay, if I eat this, that means tomorrow I got to get it out on the dumbbell, and that's more work. So I started eating. So this happened in 2007, 8-ish. By 2010, I was eating 2 bowls of white Uncle Ben's rice a day. That's it. With a little tahini and olive oil in it. And that was all I would eat because that seemed to come out easily. And that was it. I was ripped. I was lean. I looked great. I would pretend that I was great. I would date guys that thought I was the greatest, like this lean athlete that does tons of yoga, but little did they know, they would only see me like, no one knew from 6 to about 3 p.m. what I was doing.
So who were you when you were alone?
Oh, wow. At first I was scared and hopeful. So this started in 2008. I'd say 2008, I had a lot of hope and I was sad and my roommate felt bad for me. 2009, 2010, I was this person. No one's ever going to love you. You're the girl that shits on the floor. You shit on the floor. You roll in your own shit for 4 hours a day. You were at the top of your game once, and those days are over. And this is what you get. This is what you get now for being so crazy before. Like, this is what you get. You did this to yourself. And that's who it was. And now this is my karma. Like, you were so obsessed with body. You were so obsessed with being lean. Here you go. Now you can't eat. Now you wish you could eat. You can't find a doctor. And you can't tell anybody that you roll on a dumbbell to eliminate, because you're crazy. And people are going to think you're crazy. And God forbid and no one's going to love you. Guys, forget guys. Like, what guy is cool with that? Guys are like freaked out over periods. Like, what guy can you truly tell? Yeah, how do you spend your mornings? Well, me and this dumbbell. And I've got assortment. I had an assortment of them.
8 pound, 10 pound.
I had an 8. I had a 10. I didn't go to the 10 a lot. I found that the 8 worked really well. And then the 5 when you really want to finish it off. Yeah, this is crazy.
Well, I remember when we met at Superfrog, we were talking. You were giving me the cliff notes of this, which was so crazy because BJ and I are like, just to lighten up the conversation for a second here, BJ and I are manning the information booth, and we're meeting, and we're giving each other the cliff notes of like the hell in our lives, and meanwhile we're fully engaged, and they're like, the Ironman team is actually breaking down our booth. Like, I think we actually got fired from our volunteer position, right? Because people are walking up to the booth. They need information. We're not even talking to anyone because we're so fully engaged.
It was a good conversation.
Oh, so I was obsessed with you guys. I remember. I didn't want to
and the booth got broken down, and where was I going with that? Oh, but so where I want to go with that is, so no guy is ever going to love you, but there's like a super hot dude across my breakfast bar right now. Yeah. So when does he come into the picture?
Oh, wow. So,
and you're not just eye candy.
Yeah, no.
I really,
God, he's like,
thank you.
You're so much more than that.
I don't see myself as the eye candy, so
you are eye candy.
That's what makes you eye candy.
When did I get into this? Thank you.
Oh, why? Yikes.
That's all right.
Move your foot. You should probably move your
glass.
foot.
No, I got the life-proof case. Come on. I know better. I know myself. I have the life-proof case. Sorry, we have a water spill here.
I know. Well, this is funny because my mother gave this to me as a show towel, and this is what I do with show towels. I actually use them. Like, do you know what a show towel is?
You're showing it to us as you use
put it on you put it on the stove, and then nobody's allowed to use it.
It was a white towel.
I lived a life of show towels in my life, and that.
Should I get the floor?
Those days are over.
No.
Nah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
back to the
here's how I
story.
come into the picture. So we do many years of this, and someone meets me and meets how much I'm still training. By the way, I'm still doing my yoga. But now I'm doing the morning, and now I do the yoga at night, and this guy meets me and he becomes my friend and he's like, Jesus, he's like, you have zero benevolence. That's what he said to me. He was like, and there's another message. I was like, benevolence. So I had those messages from Sheila talking about God and Barb too. And now I hear this word benevolence and I look it up because I really truly didn't know what it meant. And I was like, wow, I don't. I'm like, he's so right. I have zero benevolence. I am so hard on myself. And so he became a really good friend. And then finally he said to me, you just need to go. You need to give up San Diego. Go to your parents' house and figure this out. Like spend every single penny, every dollar, every minute with doctors. I don't care what doctor, just go. So for 2 years, I went to Chicago. I gave up everything. I was 36. Going home to your parents at 36 and knocking on their door and asking them for help. And I felt horrible. I was like, by the way, I've been Peter Pan for tons of years. I didn't live your dream, Mom. And now I'm here asking you for money for colonoscopies. And of course, they're loving, they're beautiful people. And of course, they took me in and they went on the mission with me. And doctors. Finally, I fall into some surgeries. Some of them go wrong. One of them gives me a colostomy. We won't get in there, but anyhow, I see my parents. I see how hurt and sad they are watching me. It was a procession into the bathroom. It was sadness. I'd go into the bathroom and they knew they weren't going to see me for 4. Now I'm in their house. Now I've exposed them to this sadness. And I was like, I got to get out of here. Like their hearts are broken for me. I remember there was a day where my brother and sister-in-law, and this is going to get into the part of the story where I talk about divine moments of love. My brother and sister-in-law were doing a bunch of in vitro trying to have their second child. And that's expensive. And my brother, who already had one baby, was like, he showed up with his wife, not blood related to me. And they said, look, we have $50,000 we can give you to figure this out. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is your money for your family, like to try to build a family. Like, I hated myself. I've been Peter Pan, and now look at what Peter Pan showed up and now needs money. And I was so mad at myself. And I was like, no. And then my heartbreak, I remember there was a day where no one was home and my dad, I was there for 2 years. So they lived this dumbbell thing with me and they lived this sad life with me. There was a time where I did go really dark. I didn't change a t-shirt and underwear for 15 days. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't go downstairs to eat. I would go downstairs and eat a piece of toast and tomato. And then I'd go upstairs, and we didn't have cable at my parents' house, and I would watch those after school, like Lifetime network movies over 15 days, to the point where I was planning my suicide. I had decided how I was going to do it. There was 2 ways I was going to do it. One was I had $500 in my bank account, and I thought if I go outside in Chicago with $500, I could easily find some gangbanger that'll just fucking kill me. But then I was too scared that he might do other things to me and kill me, and I just was like, oh, I don't want that. So I also decided that I would for sure go to Hawaii, because I had been to one Ironman and I'd watched it, and I'd swam over where the swim start is, and I was like, I'll just swim till I die. I was like, that's bound to happen. Like, you just drop all your clothes at the shore and just swim. I love swimming. And everybody will be like, oh, wow, she was so depressed. She went to Hawaii and she swam and we never saw her again. And I don't have to tell anybody. I can just hop on a flight, go to Hawaii and start swimming right away and eventually die. I'm like, that's the way I'm going to do it. That was going on. There was a lot of suicide planning. There was a lot of that. I was too scared to do it, and I had hope. I was like, there's got to be a doctor. Like, I'm not going to have to do this. So there was a lot of sadness in Chicago. I had a surgery where they had hope that I'd be better, but I kind of lied to my parents. I was like, yeah, I'm great. And the surgery was long. I mean, it took 9 months to recover from it. It was a huge colon surgery. And I told them, I lied to them and my doctor pretty much. I was like, yeah, I'm pooping. It's awesome. And I wasn't really pooping. It was like drip. It was like tiny little drip that came out. That was it for the day. And I was like, at least it's something. So I told them all I was pooping. And I went and I started applying for jobs. I was like, I got to get out of here. And still doing the dumbbell, still doing that, what I was telling you. And I find a job with Ride to Recovery in Woodland Hills in California. Now I'm in Chicago. And the owner and the founder of Ride to Recovery was super, he's like, you got to come work for me. He loved hiring cyclists or triathletes. And I said, okay. And I looked at my sister, and it was a nonprofit, so the salary wasn't anything outstanding. And it didn't have medical. I told myself I would not go to any job unless it had medical benefits. I wouldn't do it. That was my what do you call it?
It's your line.
That was my line.
Yeah.
And I looked at my sister and I said, I have the weirdest feeling that I have to go work for this man. And there was no benefits at this time with this company. And my sister's like, are you sure? And I was like, I just feel like I have to go work there and I don't know why. And I went, I started working there. I was doing the dumbbell. I told them I had an issue with my colon and that I couldn't come in till later in the day. And they honored that and they were like, okay.
So would you just get up earlier?
Yeah. I would get up, I would jog. I would have coffee and jog because I felt like the jogging might jar it up. And I would jog and then I would do the dumbbell at home and then get into the office. And sometimes it was just, I looked like hell. Like, you cry when you do it. You feel horrible when you do it. To give you an idea of how long it took, I had calluses on my hip flexors. I had not rug burns, but burns on my elbows and burns on my knees that I had in the years. It's now 2011 or 12. So 2008, I started the dumbbell. It's 2012, and I'm still doing the dumbbell. And I perfected it. I had knee pads that I would go get from Walmart. So I wore knee pads, elbow pads. I had a whole system. And yeah, I had these things.
You had the neural pathway was developed. You knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And you knew how to limit the suffering physically, at least, like with the pads and things like that.
Yeah.
And there had to have been a part of you that was kind of lying to yourself, like, "Ooh, I've like when on paper, like, okay, I've got the pads now, so I'm not getting those like the burns as bad on my body, and I've got a job, and I've got like, okay, so things might be getting better."
This is you're like the best listener because that's exactly what it was. It was like I had to find happiness in what was okay. I was like, look, I have a beautiful family that's willing to support me. I have this job. The job was beautiful, right? I'm working with all these physically and mentally wounded veterans who all understand suffering. And I felt this family there, and they understood. I didn't tell them what I was doing, but I felt like these people also are suffering.
You were in a healing environment, and I think that healing environment was that energy that was pulling you out here, and that like I need to go out there, and take this job was just that your higher being was still in there. It's just it gets so covered up with all these layers, but it was still getting its voice out here and there, saying like, go and do this job.
So he's coming in here soon. So I was doing very destructive things in these years, dating guys that were cheaters. I was a cheater. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not proud of it, but I was not, I was definitely the other woman before, because I didn't believe who would ever love me. Who would ever love me? So I was doing I wasn't doing anything destructive sexually. I'm just not a I'm just like, a girl's regular, okay, guys? I'm just normal. But I was choosing people that also had pain and suffering in some way, but I didn't even care what it was. Like, I was with an alcoholic during that time once. I was with a person that did cocaine. I didn't do it, but I was choosing people that had their own brokenness. I called it brokenness. And that's what I believe that
It was an energy match.
Yeah.
Your pain bodies were like,
I was like,
awake.
Yeah, I was like, this is what it is. And then I had been with enough guys that were cheaters, if you can call it that, that's what I believed. I believed, okay, this is my life. I'm just going to roll in the dumbbell. I'll be with like really cute, hot dudes that cheat. And I'll just keep having cool flings, 6, 7, 8 months, maybe a year. And I'll die having like really cool story to tell of a lot of like a real Marilyn Monroe-ish story. And so I started saying that too. I was like, I'd rather be Marilyn Monroe than Jackie O. And I would literally, and I didn't believe it, but I was saying it, you know? And so at one point, I got grossed out again with myself. I was grossed out. I was dating someone who was about to get married. He didn't know about the dumbbell. And this, of course, why? I mean, this is perfect. This dude's about to get married. He's not going to ever want to know what I'm all about during the day. And I literally was listening to that Lumineers song, and it's called Slow Down, Angie. And it's kind of about a prostitute, and he's trying to take her in. And I just said, I'm nothing more than that. I'm like, this is gross. Like, why are you with this person? Like, why? Stop. Like, just focus on your job and stop dating dudes. Like, whatever. I don't care what your problem is. This is my inner, like, stop it. Stop ruining other people's lives. And so I was like, I'm sick and tired of dating. I'm just going to focus on work. And all of a sudden at work, my team members tell me, oh, this guy's a triathlete. He does triathlons. He's going to come work for Ride to Recovery. You're going to love him. He's going to be on the team. He's so awesome. His name is Tommy Muir. You guys are going to hit it off. And I was like, okay, whatever. That's cool. I was excited, a new team member. And Tommy was also finding his way towards Ride to Recovery, which is really crazy. And he was going through some stuff also. Do you want to share that?
Keep going.
And well, he shows up at work, and he was cute. He was just a cutie. I thought he was fun. We were all friends. I wasn't I wasn't like, oh my God, you know, I have to know who this guy is or anything. But we all got along, and we'd all go to Whole Foods together, and after work we'd go to yoga together and then eat together. But he knew I was someone. He knew I was coming into work late. He didn't know what. He had heard, right? You had heard I had some colon issues.
Yes.
Nobody knew what. No one there knew what I did on the dumbbell. Everybody really thought I had either Crohn's or colitis undiagnosed. And that was cool with me, them thinking that. And we all of a sudden, you know, fast forward, we start dating, right? You started there in November. We started dating like December.
October and January, but yeah.
And we start dating. And he was the real deal. He was not broken goods. He was such the real deal. He was so cool. We had such great conversations. We were friends for a long time. We even, you know, I even told him, I'm like, I'm so grossed out. I'm dating this dude. He's about to get married. Are you kidding me? Like, and he's like, well, why are you doing that? Like, we'd analyze each other's situations, whatever other love situations we were in. So we were friends first, and then I remember it was like December 28th, I think, in Whole Foods. You had come back from Christmas break, and you were just grizzly, you had your cute little 5 o'clock shadow going and your beanie, and I just looked at him in a different light because we had talked over Christmas break on the phone. And I was just like, I literally confessed to him walking down the cold aisle of Whole Foods, going to get a coconut water. We were the only two that were drinking like Harmless Harvest. Everybody else thought we were crazy for drinking.
It's $5 a pop.
Yeah. Working for a nonprofit, we're like, you know. And so we were arm in arm, and I just said, I think I like you. And he just smiled, and he goes, me too. And we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Like, this isn't supposed to happen. And we started dating full on, you know. And I would go to your house, I'd sleep over at night, and I'd leave early. And did you know?
No.
Did you know, like, I had to do anything? Like, what did you think I was doing?
It was in the dark. I never speculated. I figured you'd tell me when you wanted to or when you were going to. I didn't know. I don't borrow trouble. So I mean, we mostly create narratives that are always worse than reality. So I don't try to speculate because I'm going to be wrong 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Or maybe 9 out of 10.
So you would go home, you would have your secret life.
I had my secret life in the morning, and then my day at work, and then yoga in the evening, and then eat dinner with him, and then repeat.
He never slept over your place.
Once or twice.
But you'd leave in the morning to go to work.
Yeah, because I had
a ride.
Because you still go early.
Well, we rode first thing in the morning.
It's a cycling company, so they
So
ride.
obviously, at some point, he finds out because
This is crazy.
Because we're here and he's listening.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time he's finding out.
This is crazy.
And you're married.
Yeah.
So how does it go down?
Crazy. He leaves to go to a wrenching camp. He's going to learn how to wrench on bikes, really, like a week intensive camp of learning how to wrench on bikes. And I said, okay. well, let me backtrack and go to this divine moment because this was super divine. It was eerie for me. We were in his kitchen. This is before the wrenching camp. And he goes, I want to move in with you. And I froze. Like my whole body froze.
I had gotten another position in the organization, and I was going to have to move up to the Bay to work with the Palo Alto VA. And so I wanted her to move with me, and because I knew. And so I told her I wanted her to move with me. So there was something behind moving in, and because I was going forward in my career, and I wanted my life to include her.
And I just froze. I was like, what am I gonna? I can't move in with him. So I acted very cool and bro-like and said, oh, moving in, that ruins everything. Then that you're not gonna like me anymore. Once we move in, that just ruins. I tried to be like super cool, like bro-like. And he said to me, it was the weirdest quote, and I don't know if you remember it, but he looked at me straight in the eyes, like square, like when you see people slow dancing but pulled apart. He looked at me and he goes, you're gonna see. He's like, I'm gonna win, and then we're gonna win. I don't to this day know what you meant. I think you meant I'm gonna win this argument.
And that's exactly what I meant. I knew that I was gonna win, and that she was gonna move with me, and then we were gonna do what I knew we had talked about and bring our vision of what we wanted to do going forward to fruition, and we're on that path. So.
But to you, did it mean I'm gonna heal?
Yeah, that's all it meant. I was like, this is something that I don't know that's coming. Like, this is my angel. I don't know what it is, but I was like, okay. And then he left to go to wrenching camp in Ohio. And I said, I can't do the dumbbell. I have to eat and not do the dumbbell. Maybe I have trained myself to only be able to poop with the dumbbell. Maybe this is psychosomatic. Don't do it. Do not do it. And for 3 days, I ate like an athlete. Even though I'd look at that food and be like, oh boy, but I'm like, no, you have to prove to yourself. Maybe this is just the new way. Maybe you'll poop in 5 days. Maybe you have to get so impacted that eventually there's so much inside your colon that it'll bump it out, push it out. And I had put myself in such a hurt locker in my abdomen that on the third day, it was like 10:30 at night, and I was in so much pain. And I called my friend Jula, who you guys met at Superfrog.
Love Jula. We're trying to get Jula on the show.
Oh, he's amazing. He's a grade school buddy, surgical oncologist at UCSD right now. I'm super proud of him. He sees the worst of worst cases. He sees the worst of worst cancers. And I called him up because I knew him from grade school, and we had been in touch this whole time for several years. And I said, Jula, what am I going to do? He had known about the dumbbell. He had known about all the doctors I had seen. And he said, well, you're going to cry mercy at some point, and you could have an obstruction. You might have a twisted bowel, but, you could stay home until you cry mercy and just go to the ER then, or go now and be in the comfort of their care. It's up to you, but you're going to end up there.
I love how he just let you, I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I'm not going to take your problem away because you've gotten yourself here, and so you're going to get yourself out.
Yeah.
But I love you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I called my friend Maria, who was his roommate at the time, and I said, you got to get over here. I think I need to go to the ER. I'm not sure, but just be here in case we're going to have to go eventually. And so I am like, literally, she was an angel. She just sat on the bed, and I just rolled on the bed for hours and moaned and was just hoping I could pass gas or something. And I was in so much pain. I couldn't do the dumbbell at that point. The pain and the distension, there was no way I could even do the dumbbell.
Rock bottom number 2.
Yeah. And we go to the ER. She calls Tommy. He's in Ohio. And you go ahead. What did she say to you? She was like, Maryann's in the hospital.
Yeah, it was like 1 a.m, East Coast time, and she told me that Maryann wasn't doing well, and they were going to go to the emergency room, and but Maryann didn't want to go, so she gave her the phone, and I said, and I think I said something to the effect of, I don't know what's wrong, but it obviously doesn't sound good, and I think you need to go. And I mean, with some time and distance and some more information, I understood her aversion to the emergency room. Yeah. but she ended up, she ended up reaching that mercy point. And so, for me, the next, I didn't go back to bed, obviously, because now I'm in the unknown. And I'm not that mentally strong that I can separate that and go back to sleep about someone I was am in love with. And so the next morning I got up first thing, United Airlines is open for business, and I was on the phone, and got my flight changed, and got a ride out of rural Ohio to wherever it was, Cleveland, I think maybe, and was on a direct flight to Los Angeles, and
Yeah, so
we met up at the UCLA ER.
ER, and the whole time I knew he was coming. When Maria told me he was coming, I was like, I have to tell him. I have to tell him. This is it. I am gonna lose him. He's not. Oh well, whatever. This was rock bottom for me. I'm like, screw it. I'm like, this sucks. So I may as well lose him. Like, at least it's now. Screw it. He's not gonna be with me. And he showed up, and I remember he leaned over the gurney, and I was laying there, and I was crying, and he literally said, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you?" And I just started bawling, and I said, I literally said, I can't shit. I roll on a dumbbell all over my shit every day for 4 hours, maybe 6 hours. It's disgusting. I hate myself. And I don't even know. I just went on and told you everything. And he literally, after I just kind of barfed that all over him in the 2 minutes that I said it, he leans in and he goes, "That's not a deal breaker." I'm like, I just told this guy I roll on a dumbbell and, poop is all over me. All over that area that guys don't want to think poop being all over. And for him to say that's not a deal breaker, I'm like, I felt safe. I felt safe. I felt like I was with someone that was going to take care of me. I felt like, I think the only other person that gives me that feeling is my dad and my mom. And I felt like I found that person, and I couldn't believe that he was okay with it. And he just said, "We're going to figure it out." And he got in the gurney with me, and he slept there overnight, and we slept in this tiny little gurney together. And yeah. And then here we are.
And then we went home, and then we moved.
San Jose. San Jose. I continued the dumbbell. He lived with me. He knew.
What happened at the ER? How did they
nothing.
relieve?
They gave me Dulcolax suppository and several enemas, and that helped get some out, but then I had to go home and do the dumbbell. So that was it. They did a CT scan and said, "Yeah, you got a whole ton of poop in there."
Get it out.
That's why I never wanted to go to the ER. I've been there so many times for the same reason, that it would be a $4,000 bill for a Dulcolax suppository and 2 enemas.
That wouldn't work till its fullest potential.
And then have to go home and just do the dumbbell for $4,000. And I had plenty of those racked up in all these years. It's now 2012, right?
No, it was 2013.
2013.
So now you're living together. You're in San Francisco.
San Jose.
You brought the dumbbells.
Oh yeah, dumbbells came with towels, bleach, the works, and when you shop for a place, when you house hunt, there's a certain type of bathroom. You need to find one I can lay down in. We need 2 bathrooms. I was adamant about this. We need 2 bathrooms. It has to be a big bathroom. I need a removable shower head.
Tile wall.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was a necessity. So I shopped for bathrooms. I didn't care what the whole other apartment looked like. And the saddest part was I loved him so much, and he would, this is what the part that kills me, that I love you so much for. He would go on a bike ride. You'd eat your oats at 8. Your bike ride would be at 9. And I would look at him and go, "I'm going to the office," which meant the bathroom. And he'd be like, "Okay, I hope it's a good day." Hope it's a good day, man. I hope it's 2 or 4 hours today. And he'd leave. And sometimes you'd come back at 12, sometimes 1. So 9 to 12, 9 to 1. Your rides, and I would still be in the bathroom. And he'd come talk to me. He'd talk to me through the door. And he'd be like, knock on it, and he'd be like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'd be like, "Yes, go away. Please go away. Go, please." And he would leave me. be. And he'd go do whatever he did, studied. He was in his graduate program at the time. And I was in my doom. I was in there doing doom. I was in there hating on myself. I was hating the dumbbell, hating my life, and constantly thinking how this was going to end us. This was going to end us. And it's sweet that he loves me, and I've got a great guy, but there's no guy that's an athlete that can handle his person being in the bathroom all day. Like, I wanted to be free. I wanted to run and swim and even bike if I, maybe not bike, but I wanted to be an athlete with him from 8 to 1.
So how did you get free?
Whoa. There was a day, so now it's 2000 what? You're so good with the dates.
2013 November. Or what are you talking about?
The Stanford.
Yeah, that was November, the beginning. I had just finished a work trip. I was in San Diego. We had done a ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And then we had an event in San Diego afterward, a training camp, and so I was down here, and it was the early November. So it was probably 4 years ago from like right around now.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about another divine moment, which is so cool. You're going to love this one out of everyone that I've given you. I've given you the little ones. I've given you my brother, my dad, and this one was so profound. He has a very good friend, cyclist, lawyer, mentor, older brother type of figure. He's a big trial lawyer, so he's really done a lot in human psychology. He really is a great guy and beautiful person, beautiful soul, and done a lot of his own spiritual work and just speaks your language for sure. And he asks Tommy, how's Maryann doing? And he's like, yeah, she's not good. And at this point I had been telling him, like, this is going to end us. You're not going to want to be with me. This is horrible. This is going to end us and it's going to crush me. And he's like, stop saying that. Tommy would be like, stop saying that. That hurts me. He's like, do you understand? It hurts me. And I loved him for that, but I believed deep in my heart that it was only going to crush me more when he eventually had to break up with me. Like, having this and him breaking up with me, I couldn't deal with both. Like, I knew I would go back to the suicidal thoughts if I lost him too. And then I was like, I'm going to go, this is going to bring me back to my parents' house. I'm going to be back there living in their house doing the dumbbell in my parents' house in my 40s. And how am I going to do this in my 60s? So anyway, he fast forward to Joe talking to him on the phone, and Joe says to him, how's she doing? And he goes, oh, she's pretty bad, Joe. It's pretty bad. She's pretty low. He's like, really? He's like, put her on the phone. And Joe gets on the phone, and he says, so, can't find a doctor. No one's going to find what's wrong with you. Can't find one, huh? I was like, no. And he's like, and this is what you do. You've been doing it for how many years now? You roll on the dumbbell, and you eliminate, you go to work, and you can't kill yourself. You told me you can't. You told me you don't have the guts to do it, so you're not doing that. We all know you're not doing that. I was like, no. And I was like, why is he talking to me like this? This is terrible, I'm so depressed. And he goes, well, have you ever thought about this? He's like, maybe. Maybe there is no doctor. Maybe this is your life. Or maybe Tommy's love will heal you. What if Tommy's love will heal you? Why don't you try that? You haven't tried that before. Why don't you let it in? And maybe it will heal you. And it just clicked. I Rolodexed to the guy that told me I had no benevolence. I Rolodexed to the girl who people were just like, geez, like I was so just, this message was coming to me like, let love in, let it in. Like, your parents were trying to give it to you. Your brother tried to give it to you. You ran from it. This beautiful person who's accepted everything, you're attracted to him. He loves you. He thinks you're the strongest girl in the world. He told me that 1,000,000 times. Is trying to love you, and you're like, oh, we're going to break up, we're going to break up, we're going to break up. And he would say, like, stop saying that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, don't manifest that. And I was like, oh, he doesn't know. He thinks he's this strong, but he cannot handle this. And so Joe clicked. It clicked. It clicked. And I decided at that point when he said that to me, that every hug, that I was ever going to get from Tommy was going to be like just absorb. I was going to take it in and be like,
Just mainline the love.
and I wasn't going to reject it. And I did it like it was a practice. I did it like a coach told me, you have to take this supplement. It's disgusting. It tastes bad, but you have to do it. It's good for you. And I said, okay, this is a practice now.
Because how did it feel to start letting it in?
First scary, because I was going back to like, what if this does fail? Like I'm going to let this person totally in. So at first scary, and there was a lot of inner dialogue of like, no. Like, cause sometimes he'd hug me and I would let it in for a second and I'd squirm out.
How did it feel in your body?
Safe. Beautiful. Like I needed it. I think there was times where I've said to you so many times and you've been like, huh? I said, God, when he would hug me, I go, do you ever wish that your mom would just hug you and hold you? Like when you get out of a pool and she wraps you in a warm towel. I was like, don't you ever want that feeling? And he's like, huh? He's like, no, but I wanted that feeling so bad. I wanted to just be held and loved and just loved and healed. And he was offering it to me. And yeah, I let it in, right? And so the way this progresses is, and where I start seeing an answer, and I believe that letting love in started leading me. This was the snippet of letting love in, right? But paths started opening. And I always wanted that magical doctor to show up. I am the answer to all your problems. That's what I wanted, to show up. But what showed up was November, what?
I actually think it was October 28th. But
Yeah, it was October
And then
28th. What showed up
got out of
was-
the hospital in November.
Was doing the dumbbell one day and having come out of the dumbbell day, being ready to enjoy my evening with Tommy. And
Yeah. I had just gotten home from the work trip in San Diego.
yeah,
And it was a long day.
it was a long
It was like
day in the
12-hour
bathroom.
day.
Yeah, it was a long day in the bathroom. It was hard. And I remember coming out of there and like bawling, and he would just hold me and I was just bawling my eyes out. And he would always say to me on those days, it's taken over half of your day. Don't let it take any more. And then I would just take a deep breath in his arms and go, okay. And that was it. That was over. It's over. That was over. And now I had my evening with him to watch Netflix or do whatever until the next day. But that night, that evening, I started getting these stomach cramps. Even though I had just done the dumbbell, I was done. I was alleviated of everything. I was clear. I started getting major stomach cramps, and he was like, what's wrong? And I was just like, or tummy cramps. And I was like, I don't know. I probably have to just pass gas. I just need to drink a lot of water. And I started drinking tons of water, and it was like 7 hours of this. And I was just rolling on the ground, holding my tummy, going, oh my God, I think I just got to pass gas. And then all of a sudden, projectile vomit, all water, all pure, like lime green looking Gatorade water. Bile. And I'm projecting it out. And I said to him, this is it. And I just screamed, this is it. And he goes, what? He's like, what's it? What is it? I was like, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was dying.
And I had been advocating to go to the emergency room
For 7 hours.
For about 4 hours. And she was not having it. At that point, I
thought it was going to be another
I
$4,000.
took her decision-making ability away from her. And we got in the car and we went up to Stanford. And went to the emergency room, and she was immediately admitted.
Yeah, I said to them,
For surgery.
I said, are you guys going to give me an ileostomy? And then I was afraid I'm going to be a girl. Like, how is he going to date this girl now with an ileostomy? And they said, we don't know. I go, are you guys going to go laparoscopic? Are you guys, I knew these terms, right? Are you guys going to, because I had some surgeries prior for other things, but I said, are you guys going to cut me open or go in laparoscopically? They go, we don't know. And I go, can I meet my surgeon? I liked to meet my surgeons before. And they go, no, there is no time. And when the way they said it, with the gravity they said it, I knew there was something really serious going on.
No, they were not messing around at all. It was immediate. It was probably less than 25 minutes before we had gotten in, and she was rolling into surgery.
I remember looking at you thinking...
It was dire, and it was pretty...
What was happening?
Pretty easy to see.
We didn't know, but we found out.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 closed loop twist, bowel obstruction, 2 loops closed. So picture a balloon, artist, or a big, like a hot dog balloon, and picture that balloon twisting, and that balloon, the middle portion dilating. So I had 2 closed loop bowel obstructions. So it was kinked in 2 spots, and the large intestines was about to rupture. Why?
And it was all ended up being dead bowel as well.
Yeah, it was dead bowel, which is crazy. Jula to this day is like, I can't believe you had dead bowel. That's crazy. Dead bowel means the circulation and the blood flow had been cut off there for so long that it was actually dead.
Like the tissue was like necrotic,
Yes.
like it was
They
dying.
they had to remove it.
So they removed, actually it was my small, sorry, it wasn't my large, it was my small intestines. They removed 72
It was your
centimeters
small, yeah.
of my small intestines.
Yep.
And the doctor, the ER surgeon that day who was on call, must have been, was he talking to you? How did he know what I had been through? Because when I got,
We had some conversations.
and when I had woken up from anesthesia and everything, and he comes to visit you in your room, he goes, honey, he's like, you need to see a neurogastroenterologist. It is now 2014, the first time I hear about seeing a neurogastroenterologist. It doesn't, there's only like, they told me about 30 in the United States, and maybe there's more now. There's one at Cedars-Sinai, there's, I don't think UCLA, and Stanford. So we were lucky that we went to Stanford because we were living in San Jose and there was a closer hospital. But I had said to him, and here's what's crazy, we wouldn't be living in San Jose unless he went to grad school there. So it's kind of like the we're gonna win. But he said to me while I was, on the car ride when he's taking me to the ER, he's like, which hospital do you want to go to? And I'm puking in a bucket. I'm like, Stanford, they're better, Stanford. I don't know. I just know Stanford's a good school. And so
Great hospital.
30 minutes away, instead of driving to the one that's like 5 minutes away, we're like, I just said go to Stanford. And they had a neurogastro department. And I was in the right hands finally. I see a neurogastro. It took a long time to see her, to get an appointment
Yeah, it took
with
from
her.
November to February.
Yeah. And that was because she had a cancellation, and I got in. It takes about 6 months to see this neurogastro.
So in November, you got the 72 inches removed. Then you leave the hospital,
Continue.
but you're not. Are you still using the weight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So now I wait to heal because obviously you can't go on the weight because I have scars all over my abdomen. So I wait till that heals and I get back on the
weight.
Get back on the weight.
So then you had the appointment in when?
February.
In February. Okay, so 4 months after.
And in February, she does a thing called a colonic manometry, which people on the podcast should know this. Neurogastros see severe blows to the spine can definitely cause trauma to a nerve or to a neural pathway that can lead to motility issues, slow or fast, or none, which is what I had. But people should know neurogastros exist. If you have a crazy motility that's just not, if you have extreme diarrhea, that's a motility doctor or a neurogastro. If you don't poop and you used to poop and you were a normal pooper, what I've learned in all this is you don't become a non-pooper. If you were a pooper all your life and all of a sudden something happened, whether
Something went awry somewhere.
yeah, it could also, and this is again getting graphic and technical. One of the questions that they asked me at every appointment is if I had been traumatic, if I had any sort of traumatic sex, anally raped, or had given birth to a large baby. And I had to always tell them in every appointment that had not happened to me. So people on the podcast should know if any trauma has happened in that area, there could be pelvic floor dysfunction. But motility, you need to see a neurogastro. Yes, gastros can help, but know that they exist. Please. Like if there's anything I could get across is like Cedars-Sinai, University of Iowa. If you get online and just Google it, there's a whole list of who they are. There's not that many. But there's a lot of people struggling with motility issues.
Don't keep it in.
No.
Yeah.
Like
There are people out there to help.
yeah, go see it. So I end up going on Dulcolax. They actually give me an over-the-counter medicine, Dulcolax, and I'm on that for 2 years, but I'm still not eliminating properly, and I'm doing the dumbbell again. So for 2 years, I'm doing the dumbbell again. And now I was just like,
It was 13 more months, but yeah.
yeah. So I was like, I can't do this. So I started looking at forums because I knew that the ileostomy that I have now was the end all be all. He called it the express lane.
You knew this was going to happen pretty much.
I wanted to prolong it.
There was two options.
Yeah.
That came out of, so when after the colonic manometry, they diagnosed her with colonic inertia, which means the brain's sending the signal to evacuate, but the nerves in the colon are not receiving to act. So, and then through a chiropractor we were seeing, it became known to her that she actually fractured her back with that yoga move because he took x-rays when we started to see. So the puzzle, Dr. Ken was
all
able
coming
to
together.
put this all together in 8 years' time. And so, but the colonic inertia prevented that.
And like getting a fracture during a yoga pose is insane, but because of the fragility of your body, I'm sure your bone density was like
Terrible.
super low. And like, I mean, oh my God, you're so tough, right? Like we know that, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got nothing to prove.
Yeah.
But it's such a gorgeous example of like what being tough can get you.
Yeah.
And where it can take you. Because with everything, you can go too far down the line. But just, imagining how you were even functioning, like when you were in Greece and so sick and, then on Operation Atrophy and probably so sick. Mm-hmm. And then actually fracturing your back in a I'm sure that the bones were already weak. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it was like just the little bit of frosting that it needed. But it's crazy to me. And then, so I'm assuming from fracturing the back, you severed a nerve.
I don't know if they call it severing or if they say, I've heard a doctor say snapped. He's like, oh yeah, you snapped it.
But you lost the connectivity.
Lost the connectivity. The way my neurogastro likes to say is you cause trauma to a neural pathway. Oh. The communication was no longer there.
Yeah. Whoa.
So I wish there was like a name for it so I can just name it. So is it snapped? Is it severed?
That part. But
colonic inertia is the name of what happened.
With that, Dr. Ken basically said, there's three options forward. You can take the Dulcolax and continue to use the dumbbell, or there's two surgical options. And you can, I guess, the ileostomy or then the direct connection.
Bulk. Let's take your large intestines out and connect your small to your rectum. But I'm going to tell you right now that doesn't work that well. There's a lot of issues there. You'll have to carry pads with you because your sphincter won't be, the trauma that we do from surgery, it takes time to heal. So when poop descends into your rectum and your sphincter, that will be like a leaky faucet. So for about a year, if you sneeze or cough, there will be a little shard.
Yeah. And like I always say, like everything's there for a reason. So
yeah.
Like, starting taking out large sections of your body is like, oof, that's rough. There's gonna be consequence.
And then the other option was an ileostomy, which I love Tommy calls it the express lane. And that's taking your small intestines and pulling it out of your rectus abdominis through your abdominal fat and out of your abdomen. So everybody sees there's a couple of walls there. There's your rectus abdominis, which is your muscle, a little layer of fat or a lot, depending if you have a lot. And then it comes through it looks like, when you see a baby's belly button when they first are born and it pops out like that, it's not crusty like that. Babies' belly buttons get like crusty. It's like, it looks like lips or a tongue. I mean, it's pink and it's...
So they reroute it.
And now it pokes outside of my abdomen a little bit to the right of my belly button, between my belly button and hip bone. And it's just there. And it does what it does all day long. And it's your small intestines. So what your large does is when you eat, it goes through your small intestines. Your small absorbs everything. Your small does all the work, absorbs everything. And the waste, the stuff that it doesn't need, goes into your large. And for lack of a better way to describe it, your large just kind of bakes it. It like bakes it through. Some people, it takes 8 hours to get to the rectum. Some people 6, some people 5. Again, depending on your motility, your activity, how much fiber you ate, how much water you drink. I don't have that baking system. I don't have a large intestines anymore. So
did they remove that completely?
Yeah, they removed it completely. It didn't work. I had no peristalsis. And so they removed it completely. And
peristalsis is kind of like the layman's term, like almost like a muscle pump that moves everything along.
like a caterpillar, little like little accordion,
Yeah.
right? And it's involuntary. You don't know it's happening. You can't feel it.
Which is what the dumbbell was doing for you.
Yeah, I was pretty much doing that. And so, and it was rough. I mean, it's not like rolling around cutesy on a dumbbell. I mean, you're pushing on your abdomen.
I know what I was getting when I just want to say this because when I was talking about meeting you and we were at the Ironman tent and all of that, I pulled out a Trigger Point Nano, which is a foot roller, out of the bag, and I was showing it to you, and you had a
PTSD.
traumatic reaction to it. You were like, "Oh my god, that looks like a dumbbell."
Yeah, no, I hate dumbbells now.
Yeah,
I don't like them. I don't want to see them.
I remember now what I was getting at when I was telling that story, that you were just like, "Oh my god, that looks like a dumbbell." Like, I totally have PTSD around a dumbbell because it did. It was like a little, it's like a foot roller.
Yeah.
And so, that's what the dumbbell was doing.
So, but getting the beautiful part that I think you guys are going to like also that I skipped over, but I'll kind of touch on, is getting to the decision to have the ileostomy was also a long process. And I was so afraid. I had gone on forums and heard horror stories. I had friends that had them, and I was like, oh my God, they break all the time. Oh my God, how is it going to be intimate with Tommy? There's just going to be this bag of stool in that general area, and
you're Googling stuff you never thought you would Google before.
I was really freaked out, and so I just wasn't ready. And so I started wanting to investigate what learning to love myself was. I wanted to understand that, and I thought maybe that if I learn to love myself, maybe I'll love myself so much that I won't care so much about an ileostomy and what it means. I'll love myself enough to have one.
It's the perfect next logical step. He loves you. You let the love in. It's led you to, I do believe that allowing that love led you, because it was like, oh my God, she's letting it in. This is this is like step one of one of the biggest things she's supposed to learn. And then the second step, without that foundation, you would not have been able to step into and get curious about, which is loving yourself.
Yeah, and that was intense. So I started working with someone, actually a medium, because I wanted to just know if I should do the surgery or not. And I thought a medium would just tell me. So
make it simple.
Yeah.
Make the decision for you.
Yeah.
You're like, don't I deserve just one simple answer?
I've tried
please?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So I called a friend of mine.
Well, I wasn't. She would.
Yeah.
I would not. I never ever told her anything to do. She would always ask me my opinion, and I would never give it on anything related to this, because I did not want to interject myself into the process, and because number one, I don't know what it's like to be in her shoes, to have gone through that, and I think that's selfish of me to interject what it's like sitting in the passenger seat with none of the responsibilities or ramifications of that. And so I would never recommend what she had to do in any situation, because the decision ultimately had to be her own. Because if I gave her a recommendation that she followed through on, because maybe more of a belief in me, and it went wrong, it could be something that comes between us down the road. So every decision I felt needed to be hers.
Yeah.
But also, even a deeper...
And I would support it. But
a deeper understanding of that is the principle of nonviolence in yoga, which is that we think as humans, like, oh, this person drinks too much, so let's have an intervention. And so you get there and they're not ready because they haven't hit their life isn't crappy enough that they're gonna seek their own healing. But we violate, and I'm just using that as an example, and I don't mean to do this to offend anyone, but just an understanding of like really like a deep meaning of nonviolence is like, we gotta let people go down their road as fully expressed as possible in order for them to learn what they're supposed to learn. And it's so hard to watch the person that you love suffer. And so you have an unbelievable quality of strength that I would say 98% of the population does not have, because you allowed her to go down and fully express her path. And look at what she got to. She got to this place where she was like, I want to know how to love myself.
I didn't know how
You're
to do
doing
it.
a lot of work in this life.
Yeah,
so
right?
you
So, yeah, I had a friend that was like, her name's Stacy. She lives here in San Diego, and she's really clear, and she's getting like a lot of clairvoyant signals, and she does a lot of meditation, and things come to her. And so I called her. I said, what should I do? What should I do? She goes, I don't know, Lekas. She's like, my kids are in the car. I got to do a reading on you. She's like, but hold on. She's like, hold on 1 second. I don't know what you have to do, if you should do the surgery or not. I don't know, but this message keeps coming to me that you have to love yourself. And she didn't know that I was on this, that was something, a conversation that I was having in my head. And I was like, what? Like a random friend telling me, like, I don't know if you should have the surgery or not. So then the next thing is I call this medium, and the medium says, and this is like within a week. And I call this medium and I say, hey, you don't know me. I got your number from someone. I heard you're good. Call me back. She calls me back. And she goes, hi, sorry, I'm in the kids with my car. The kids are in the car with me, and it's kind of loud, but do you know what I do? And I was like, no, I don't really know what you do. I got your number from someone. They said you're really good, and I just need a decision on something. And she's like, well, I'm a medium, so dead people might come through. She's like, but I also heal. I do chakra healing. I'm a healer, but dead people do come through. If that freaks you out, just let me know, and I won't tell you about it. And I was like, no, I don't really need to talk to anybody that passed, and I don't need chakra healing. I just need help with a decision. And she goes, oh, yeah, I know. She goes, there's something wrong with your colon and the nerves in your colon, but you have a lot of chakra work you have to do. And I was like, what? How would this woman even know to say colon and nerves? Like, how would she even know to say that? And so I was like, I'm working with her. And it took 3 total sessions. And literally the first thing she said to me was, oh, wow, you are toxic. She just goes, you are toxic. And I was offended. I was like, I'm like the coolest, happiest, nicest. I want the best for people. She's like, oh, no, you don't know what toxicity is. She's like, worry, anger, judgment, hatred. She just went through these words, and she's like, do you do that to yourself? And I was like, oh, let me give you my journal that I don't keep. Let me just tell you what I say to myself for over 8 hours a day. And I explained to her what was going on, and she just said, that's it. I have to learn. That's right now all she knows is she knows that if I do the surgery or don't do the surgery, something was going to happen in the surgery. So research everything that might happen with the surgery, because you will have something go wrong. She's like, I don't know what that is, but something will, but you'll be fine either way. But you're not going to be fine unless you don't learn to love yourself. She's like, so that's the work I can do with you. And I'm not trying to take your money. I would rather you be done like in one session, but this is how I do it. And I took what she said like an athlete, and I practiced. I told her what I would say to myself in the bathroom, and she gave me sentences to combat that. Like, it was like, this is what I say when this happens. This is what I say when in the 4th hour. And if it takes 5 to 8 hours that day, I'm done. Like, I'm thinking about suicide. Like, that's when suicide planning comes in the 5th hour or 8th hour. And doom. Doom is the best word I can say that resonates with me the most in those years. Just doom. He was going to leave me. I was going to end up at my parents. Just doom. I was doomed.
And like, look at the simplicity of what she was giving you to combat that. I'm assuming, I don't even really have to ask, that they were essentially the opposite language of what you were telling yourself. Yeah. And this is the practice. Like, this is the practice of developing our reconnection into our higher selves, which is love. And so without that cultivation, we will not be able to be in touch with that. And but it's a practice. And so how did it feel when you were like, you're a piece of whatever, and you combated it with those sentences? Give us.
It was so hard to believe, and the first couple of times it just felt like I was reading lines off of someone else's playbook, but I had to practice it. And I mean, I practiced it, and it felt great. It felt like those hugs. It felt nurturing. It felt safe. It felt right. It felt good to myself.
Because you had already learned how to let love in.
Yeah.
You were just selectively applying it to Tommy's love.
Mm-hmm. It felt right. It felt, I was listening to Louisa Hay, Abraham Hicks, and it felt like every time I said those nice sentences to myself, it was what my body needed to hear. It needed to be held, like that little kid in the towel when you get out of the pool and your mom holds you. It needed to be nurtured. It needed to be loved. It was so thirsty for love from myself.
Oh, it was like a desert.
Yeah, and it was powerful work.
And that's truly the embodiment of practicing mental skills. And then there's no better testament to the applicability across any spectrum. It's not just applicable to sport. Every endeavor, and it goes back to the mental component within everything. And we have to practice them just as the physical. And it doesn't happen at the snap of a finger.
No.
But it becomes the authentic and the truth.
But would you say that because you had discipline, like you had the discipline, you had the will, because of your background, your innate ability to be an athlete, that you applied that same thing to learning how to love yourself?
1,000,000%. I was like, this is it. I'm not going to I did not do yoga at a studio. I did it in my bathroom with an area heater, with Louisa Hay on, and I did all the postures, and then I would lay there and I would listen to 10-minute meditations after, like guided ones, because I didn't know how to do it, and I just practiced it. The only thing that was authentic to me versus a tape or Louisa Hay or Abraham Hicks, those were the ones I liked. And I know there's a lot of people out there, but I didn't know how to do it on my own. But the one thing that was organic to me was I completely focused on if I were to get better, if I would not have to do the dumbbell ever again, what would I do? And the medium had asked me that, and I said, I'd go to Greece. I'd go to Greece with Tommy.
Like, who would you be? This is like classic Byron Katie work. Like, who would you be without it?
Oh, yeah, I said I would wake up in the morning and I would go like open the door and first see the sun and smell the fresh air and not just do this procession to the bathroom. But I said to myself, if I didn't, the first thing I would do is book a ticket to Greece, take Tommy to Greece, have him meet all my friends, all my triathlete friends, my family, just engulf him in that world so he can see it. And it was such a big part of my life and a beautiful part of my life and my childhood. We were there every summer in my childhood, and I also practiced that. So to help the listeners here, I took that and focused on just that. Because to ask me like, oh, what would you do? Like if you won $1 million, oh, I do this, I do that, I do this. I would go to Disney World. It's like just one thing. And I laid in bed at night and I would picture us in Greece and it'd put this huge smile on my face. I knew exactly what we were doing. I knew who we were with. I could see it. I could smile right now thinking about it. And then in the morning I would do it again. First thing before I got out of bed. And if I ever forgot to do it, I would actually excuse myself from whatever I was doing and I'd go lay in bed for that 12 seconds and just do it. But for me, it was laying down in bed and just do it. And that was actually, it was the first thing we did when I got better. We booked a flight to Greece. We did a buddy moon. We had a honeymoon there. We called it a buddy moon. We invited our friends, and it was a celebration of my health, celebration of looking at food and being able to eat it and know what was going to get eliminated. It was It was not food afraid. It was love. It was love from friends. It was love for the people that knew. All these people that came to Greece knew what I had to do. And when I got the ileostomy, I could say there was a lot of people that cried.
So
I was just gonna say that visualization is just, this is
huge.
So like the perfect example. Like you visualize it, you put all your earnest and genuine interest and focus on this one thing, and it comes to fruition. So what if you did that every day of your life for everything that you're doing, and not trying to do 50,000 things, just do like one thing really well.
One pointed focus.
And then do the next thing really well. Like what if we removed all that stuff?
Yeah.
No, and I think that's possible, and I think that's the way forward to do what you want to do, and it begins and it's in the moment, right? Because when you're 17 steps down the road, you're not here and now, and the only thing you have the ability to control is right now. And it's taking that systematic approach. Yeah, you can see the long term because you have to have something to work towards, but being able to see that and working towards it and you know, harnessing your energies and your efforts and putting it down that path. And that's, I mean, hands down, she's the absolute toughest, strongest, most driven, I mean, person I've ever met in my entire life. I couldn't fathom how she dealt with it, and how she handled it with such grace. And the thing that impressed me the most beyond all of that is how she never once, ever took that out on anyone else or me. She never allowed that to spill out of her. And her ability to separate that and treat everybody else in her life as if they're the important person that they are, and never take out her own personal frustration, anger on any. She's the most beautiful person I've ever met or could hope to meet. And I mean, it's inspirational, and it really, she has pushed me to be a better version of myself, because I'm not going to lie, that's not something I have the ability to do all the time. And it pushes me to try to be better. I've never seen her treat anyone, you know, without the respect that without the respect that they deserve.
Well, they should get me, right? I love people.
Well, not everybody has that ability, though.
Well, and I love that, you're in the bathroom for X amount of hours a day, and he's falling more in love with you.
I know.
Right? On paper, this does not make sense.
No.
So tell us about what was the turning point where you said, I want to go to the express lane. I am done with this.
He had said to me, okay, we got to go to my parents for Christmas. And I was like, whoa, that's exposing 3 more people, his brother, his mom, his stepmom, and his dad, to what I do in the bathroom. And I was just like, oh, well, first of all, let's talk about the size of their bathroom. I'm like, do they have a big bathroom? You know, I want to know the layout of the house. Is it going to be my bathroom? And
it was a huge bathroom.
What a prison.
Oh.
What a prison.
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, that's the perfect word. I use that all the time. I was in a prison, in my own prison. It was horrible. I would love to be in charge of capital punishment right now, and I would definitely incorporate enemas, the dumbbell, all of it. Just put me in charge. Any prison person listening.
Some badly placed bathroom with
just
carpet on the floor.
Yeah, just call me. I can consult. But I said, okay. He goes, look, if we're gonna do, if you're gonna have this, we gotta live life. We gotta live life. So I go to his stepmom and dad's in New Mexico, and it is now. I had been doing work with the medium. It was October. I started with the medium. It's now December. I had only done probably 3 sessions total with her, each being an hour.
But you're doing the work every day.
I'm doing the work every day. And she did tell me, she's a beautiful person. Her name's Amy Akers. She did tell me, look, if you are in a bad place, text me what you're saying. Text me, and I will text you back what you need to do. And so she allowed me to text her, and it was like a coach. It was a coach. I mean, people get freaked out over saying medium. Now she's a theta healer. That's what she's done a lot of work. And
It's exactly what I do with the people that I work with,
Yeah.
like with meditation and stuff. They're, you know,
Your
It was-
coach.
yeah, like they'll text me like, I just lost it and now I'm in the bathroom because you said that was a temple. And
Yeah.
and what do I do now? Like,
Yeah.
because I, you know, and it's like, all right, this is how you, because I don't want to walk out of here the way I walked in.
And so, yeah, so I go to New Mexico. I'm doing the whole dumbbell there. And on the very last day when we were going to go say goodbye, his stepmom, she's awesome. And she is retired now, but was recently retired, but she's a polygrapher for the FBI. And she tells it like it is. She's just like I don't know if being a polygrapher for the FBI means you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you just freaking tell it like it is.
It's kind of just how she is.
She's a tell it like it is person. And I went to her bedroom.
From love.
Yeah, I went
With
to her
love.
bedroom. She's the best. I went to her bedroom. She's awesome. And I said, hey, thanks for the UGG slippers. I love them. What are you doing? She's looking at a file of a bad guy. She's like, I have a polygraph tomorrow. I was like, ooh, let's see the bad guy. This is cool. And so she didn't show me. She couldn't. But anyway, I was like, thank you so much. And she's like, kiddo, you're not living. And I just broke down. And I looked at her and I said, I know. I was like, I know. I was like, thank you. Thank you. Because everybody else was like, oh, it's, no one. She just goes, you're not living. I don't know what the next step is, but you need to do the next step. And it was like,
Here's the sign.
it was like, this is what I've been waiting for. I literally left her bedroom. It was late at night, but the next morning, the very first thing I did was call my doctor and say, I'm ready. And it was December 26th. She had us in her office, I think, on January 9th to meet with her.
2015.
And she looked at Tommy and I and was like, so do you want to be connected to the rectum? Do you want an ileostomy? And I said, oh no, ileostomy. I want no more complications. I don't want a year of I've already suffered. I don't want the other option. I said, I'm ready for the ileostomy. And she goes, oh my God. She's like, I'm so glad you chose that because she goes, get ready. What are you going to do with 8 new hours in your day? And I just looked at him and I looked at her and all three of us were just crying. I mean, he was holding me, I was holding, and it was like the three of us were in a huddle and I was like, I don't know, but I know I'm going to walk outside every day and look at the sun and look at the sky and just smell the fresh air for sure. That's one thing I'm going to do. And I was like, and I'm going to run and I'm going to do yoga and we're going to go to Greece. And she was like, well, get ready for your new life. And I mean, we got in the, January 14th?
Yeah.
I was getting
it was
surgery.
literally like 3 or 4 days later, they got us in. Somebody canceled, opened up, and the doctor, Dr. Kim
the
was
best.
fantastic. I mean, she moved Maryann to the front of the line.
Yeah.
And pulled some strings to get her in there, like, really quickly.
Oh, man. It was amazing. It was awesome. Stanford was awesome. Yeah. And then I got it, and yeah, it's working great since. I have had a slip up. You do get hernias. It is a hernia technically. It's your intestines.
Yeah, I
coming
was
out
thinking
of-
that. I'm like, it's kind of like a hernia on purpose.
Yeah. And so you do get, some people are prone to reoccurring hernias. I did have a hernia. It was huge. It looked like a fake boob, like a B or C cup.
It's a
I have pictures. You will die.
Yeah.
You will die when you
pushes
see
through
it.
that little hole, right?
The hole, yeah,
Yeah.
already that's there.
Yeah.
They tried to seal it up, but it shot through the abdomen.
It's, yeah.
It's like a B or C.
It was a B or C cup on the side of my body, and I loved it. I thought it was so funny because I was like, oh, yeah, dude.
But you're just like, I know what that is.
Yeah.
I can deal with that.
Yeah, we'll get a hernia surgery, no problem. But my doctors told me, like, okay, if you're prone to these, let's operate when we have to. Let's let it get big enough and operate it when we have to, because you might be prone to them, which means you might be in here a lot, getting a lot of hernia surgeries. Hopefully not, but just know that's a part of this life now. And so I was like, I don't care, man. I'm not on a dumbbell. Like, I don't care if I have one every year, which I do care, but I was like, great. But what was the best, and it's so silly, but I had this big hernia and I'd go to yoga and I had my little side pooper. And I loved it. I was like owning it. And it literally looked like I was carrying a doorknob like in my pants. And I'd wear the high-waisted black yoga pants. And I swear to God, I couldn't wait for like a semi-hot dude to be next to me in yoga to be like, what is that chick stashing in her pants? And I want to be like, it's just a little bag of Doritos I keep just in case I get hypoglycemic. Like, it was like a knob, on my pants, and I just loved it. I'd love to see their eyes kind of slip to the side and be like, what is in her pants? And it's a big hernia, dude. And out of that hernia, there's a little pooper. Poops in a bag. Super hot. I'm so hot, It was just, yeah.
How has your, view of your body changed? So what did you think about your body back, when you were racing competitively, getting ready for Greece?
I was a beast. I was like, dude, I could have won fitness competitions if I decided to go that route. I was so vain about my muscles. I was so vain about my abs. I mean, it was still, it wasn't as lean as some of the elites, but it was pretty badass. And I cared about every ab. I would look at my abdomen if I ate too much the night before, I would freak out. And now I'm like, are you kidding me? If I lifted my shirt, you would see a million scars. And I feel like, isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic that the thing I was most vain about has the most cuts in it? I mean, straight down the middle, across. I mean, I have a C-section scar from colon surgery. I have one vertical. I have laparoscopic scopes all over it. I used to have a colostomy. Huge. I mean, it's and I'm just I don't give a shit. I don't care if my arms get a little tubby, if I eat a little. I am so happy that I can eat without fear, and then I could eat with joy, and I could be a healthy eater, be okay if I had a cookie, Of course it's a vegan cookie, but still.
It's like this beautiful reminder of your war.
Yeah. Yeah.
The war you went through.
Yeah. Have you guys seen that movie Room?
No, but it was on Amazon, wasn't it? An Amazon?
It's intense, and it's intense. She was captive. It's a true story, and she was captive with her little boy, and she plans to set him free. And there's this whole escape route, and they had been living there up until he was 7 years old in this one room, and that's all he knew. She had to create a fun world for him in there. So he didn't know that a world existed outside of that room. And when she planned his escape route, she said to him in the movie, "You're going to love it out there." And he goes, "Where?" And she goes, "The world." I cried for 3 days because my world was the bathroom. And I cried so much after that movie because they were in that prison. And he had never seen the world. And I felt that. I was like, the world. When she said to me, what are you going to do with your life? It felt that powerful, in that movie. And 3 days, I think 3 days straight, I cried. I would come home crying. And even now, last week, I called my best friend, Melissa, who gave me in the story, she gave me the first enema. I was in traffic going to work. This was only a week ago. And I started bawling on PCH, bumper to bumper. It was a 2-hour commute that day to work. And I called Melissa and I was like, I'm in traffic. She's like, I'm sorry. I was like, it's awesome. I'm like, it's better than the bathroom. It's better than the dumbbell. I love it. There's an ocean next to me and I'm in bumper to bumper traffic going to a job. And I just bawl. Sometimes that happens to me. It just does.
And do you feel gratitude when that happens? Yeah. I think you had, it's so beautiful to have, you're having these releases of joy that I think were always within you, but they were held captive. And they're so big and they're so powerful. And that now you're open. You've unlocked yourself. You've opened up the cage. And now it can flow. And I experience a very similar thing. Sometimes I'm just crying gratitude and I love it. And I'm not attached to it. I just kind of let it go and I feel it. And I say, oh my God, because for so many years, I never cried. I never allowed myself to cry. And if I did, it was in my closet in the dark where nobody could hear me. And it was into the sleeves of my sweater or jacket. So nobody could hear the those, and you might be familiar with.
I let myself, but sometimes I'd hide it. The real painful days, I'd try to hide them from them. But
It's so beautiful, and oh my god, like this show is like, first of all, this is like epic. You're gonna have to. I think you're gonna be a two-parter.
It's okay.
This is gonna be a two-parter. You're gonna flow a couple weeks consecutive, because we won't leave our people hanging. But what an unbelievable story! And so we've been going for over 3 hours.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy? Where are you today? Obviously, this is serving this whole experience is serving as a platform in your life, and how is it serving you now?
After I finished graduate school, about 14 months ago, we started a business, a joint endeavor. We have a long-term vision that I knew we were working towards back in that kitchen at Woodland Hills in May of 2013. And our company's name is, business name's Mindset Elevated. And I do performance mental skills coaching for individuals, teams, groups, work in that capacity. And I just took a full-time position as a mental skills coach with that organization where we met, Ride to Recovery, which is now morphed into become Project Hero, which serves all those other areas beyond just the bicycle. And then Maryann has speaking and motivational or inspirational speaking, telling her story. And
There's a couple things that come towards in my direction, or the way I fit into Mindset Elevated. I think the one story I have to share is with triathletes that are constantly doing what I did, and which led to my demise, is comparing myself to the best in the world. Being negative self-talk. It didn't get me very far, and it only got me in more toxic dialogue. All I taught myself was being toxic to myself. And so, one talk that I do is to triathlete groups about, really not doing that, basically. Another talk is a talk about learning how to love yourself and what are some ways. And I've done this talk at a yoga studio. And the ways I teach people to or guide is, look, you might not have the money to have a coach, but there are forums. There are other people that are probably going through the same exact thing, and those are free. And if you don't have the money, maybe that's step one, is not being alone in it. Learning to love yourself is pretty hard for people to grasp that and understand. But if you're curious about it, or if that message is coming to you, explore it. Explore it. If it's church, maybe that's your medium. If it is a medium, great. If it's you guys and meditation, yoga class, if it's Tommy, a mental skills coach, a therapist. But there are professionals out there that practice that and can teach you how to do that. I'm not going to teach you. I still have a lot of work to do there. But there are people that know how to do it and can guide you. So I really talk about seeking that. If after you hear this, please seek that. You sat through this talk, seek that for yourself. And that's one thing I talk about, is when hope is on empty, we call it. This is what we call the talk. When hope is on empty, go to love. Love's what's going to fuel you. And I think there's a lot of people in the world that maybe their spouse has terminal cancer. Maybe they've lost a job and they feel like they're not marketable. Who knows what the doom, I like to call it the doom, is. But there are ways out of the doom. And the first way is start to love yourself. Doesn't help to punish yourself. And find that help through different avenues. Maybe it's first confiding in someone. Or, like I said, the forums, or people like you, people like Tommy. And then lastly, the other layer that's coming to me recently, and I love it, this is one of my favorite ones, is my doctor and friends are sending me people that are about to get an ileostomy. So people that have suffered from severe Crohn's, severe cancer, have to take out their large intestines, young girls, usually 25, 20, that think it's the worst thing in the world to have an ileostomy. And I've Skyped with one, and now I'm about to have another. And I don't, I'm not charging these people. This is something that I feel like I need to give back. But my doctor is sending me people to talk to. And even if I want to take it to Skype and showing them, hey, it's not that gross. It's not that scary. And it's quite easy. And you can eat like this, and just giving them tips and stuff I had to learn through Guest and Check. And then the last avenue is some companies that make these products are very interested in my story and just really helping people find the right doctor, especially motility. No one wants to talk about poop. And so I've had a couple of people that I've helped with that. And when what was really beautiful is when I told the story at the yoga studio on Facebook that night, so many people reached out and they said, I'm in the doom. And one girl said, I'm in a prison. It was beautiful. She said, I've been bulimic all my life, and I heard your story, and I got a life coach, and it's been going really well. And the doom, man, the prison we put ourselves in, it's, if you want to heal, there, love first. Love from every angle you can get it. If you can't love yourself, then take it from people. Let it come in. Whoever's giving it to you, don't push them away. Because I think people that are in the doom, and a lot of athletes in the doom, and everybody feel like the weakest link. You don't want to be someone's weak link. You don't want to be a burden. So they keep it to themselves. And that's not letting love in. That's not going to lead you to that path, of healing, because love is leading you. Love will, I promise, if there's one thing I can promise and I believe in deeply, is love will lead you towards healing. It might be a long road, it might be a short road. Mine was long, but I was rejecting it a lot of times. So recognize when love is coming in, accept it, believe that you're worth it, and see where that ride takes you.
I think that's a beautiful place to end this epic conversation. And I'm going to add one more thing, a quote from the Course in Miracles that says, every loving thought is true. Anything else, no matter the form it takes, is a cry for help and healing. Awesome. That was epic. You're amazing. All right, that's it. Maryann Lekas, crazy story. Hopelessness, doom, love, hope, and recovery. Amazing. As we all are, Maryann is still very much on her journey, but oh man, she is killing it in life these days. We're just so honored to have been the ones to share her story in such detail, and we are so honored to have these two soldiers of life in our world. We'll be sharing our podcast extra with Maryann and Tommy on Patreon this week, along with some photos that Maryann so generously provided us. So if you are into getting more out of this convo and all other convos, consider becoming a monthly supporter of the show. Right now, we have over 35 patron-only extras and exclusives. Beej and I will be in LA this Saturday, December 16th, teaching yoga at the Farm Sanctuary Plant-Powered Run. So let us know if you're heading over there. We'd love to see you. We've got our Amazon banner ad back in action. So visit the blog post for this episode for all the show notes, all the deets, and grab that link for all your Amazon purchases. Also, we've got a few more spots open for our high vibe retreats. So check out the show notes for these 2-night, 3-day yogi triathlete immersions here in gorgeous Carlsbad, California. These are the perfect immersions for couples, wife and wife, husband and husband, husband and wife, taking your relationship to the next level. What would your life look like if your relationship was up a level or 3 or 10? I can speak from experience. It is bliss, it is power, it is joy, and it is love on a level that I never knew possible. Thank you so much, you guys. I hope you can feel our love and support as you walk this warrior path that is the awake and ready life.